Charlie Kirk Show starts now.
New data, well, it shows U.S. consumer confidence rebounding in the month of May. This comes after 5 straight months of decline. A White House spokesperson released this statement. It says, despite doomsday prophesizing, President Trump's America First economic agenda continues to pay off. He goes on to say today's consumer confidence report reflects multiple solid inflation and jobs reports that Americans have seen under Trump, as well as a GDP report that showed a whopping 22% spike in gross domestic investment in the first quarter of 2025.
I couldn't be more pleased to announce that as of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule. Last year, the Biden administration urged healthy children to get yet another COVID shot despite the lack of any clinical data to support the repeat booster strategy in children.
That ends today.
Democrats are in a huge bit of trouble. Like this, it is just, There's no way to look at this without recognizing the massive scale of our problems. We are losing ground with the fastest growing parts of the population, younger voters and Latinos. And that is a party that can win an election every once in a while if the stars align correctly. But that is a party that will look a lot like the Democratic Party from the 60s until the 90s.
And
we maybe can win when Nixon gets impeached and when Nixon resigns, and we win that election, and then we lose for the next 12 years.
I plan on going to Nashville in the near future, and I said that from day one that we're going to hit every sanctuary city. Everybody that wants to push back against ICE, we're going to pay a lot of attention to them, because why? That's not a threat. But if you're going to support criminal aliens walking the street, then we know there's a problem there.
I think the degree to which the team around President Biden was hiding him and sequestering him, mainly starting in the fall of 2023, cannot be overstated. There's a cabinet meeting in October 2023, and then several cabinet members told us for the book they never saw him again in person for months and months and months. He was kept away from them.
The purpose of education is not to have an endless buffet line for students to sample every bad idea in the world. It's to point them to the good, the true, and the beautiful. And I think we've lost what the purpose of education is. Education in Latin literally means to lead forth. To lead forth out of the cave was the original analogy. And so at Turning Point Academy, we take the biblical idea to train a child up in the ways in which they will go, and we make no apologies for instituting a belief that believing in God is better than secularism. The defense of universal human equality is a good for all humanity, amongst many other things that you articulated.
It is a scandal.
Yes.
It is without question, and maybe even worse than Watergate in some way.
Right.
Because Richard Nixon was in control of his faculties when he wasn't drinking.
Let's face it, it wasn't Biden. Elizabeth Warren controlled the auto pen during that administration.
Professor Tribe, what is your response to Donald Trump's latest attack?
Well, it's really hard, Lawrence, to know where to begin. He's obviously unhinged. He has no idea what he's talking about. He just thinks that slinging around, frankly, BS about the people at Harvard and other institutions will somehow substitute for taking the law into account.
At Turning Point USA, what we are doing every single day is we are dedicating ourselves and our staff and our students and our activists for a full revival of America.
Get ready to launch into the future of freedom at the largest student event in the nation. SAS is back. Join thousands of fellow students ready to pioneer a bold new era for America at our Student Action Summit. And we're bringing in the biggest voices in the movement. Featuring Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Dr. Ben Carson, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, Brandon Tatum, James O'Keefe, Benny Johnson, Jack Posobiec, and more. From July 11th through 13th in Tampa, Florida. Register now at SAS2025.com.
Every day, there's a battle for your mind raging. Information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
Okay, everybody, radio stations across the country. We are here at the mobilebitcoin.com studio here in the imperial capital of Washington, D.C. Now, I asked my team when we were landing in D.C., which one do I disdain more, Washington, D.C. or London? And London won, just for the record. So I'm actually happier to be in Washington, D.C. than in London, because at least in this town, we have President Donald Trump in office. We have Kash Patel, we have Dan Bongino, we have Pam Bondi, we have Bobby Kennedy. But boy, this place is not my favorite. I will say this though, I will definitely take Spanish over the Arabic outside stores. I will say that. I would much rather have a nice little bodega of some guy from Nicaragua that at least believes in Jesus and doesn't want to conquer the entire Western world than what I saw in London. Take it. It's not ideal, but I'll definitely take it. The city definitely does feel different than from Biden's term. The city finally has life. A lot of people are back in town and things are happening and there's a hustle and there's a bustle. The biggest change, honestly, is not even that political. It's that under Biden, the city couldn't shake that ridiculous, like, long COVID depressing wearing masks all the time thing. I mean, I remember visiting DC like late summer 2023. It was the only visit that I had while Biden was president of DC. I literally avoided DC for 4 years, except for one day. And everyone was still wearing masks. And everyone was still walking around with masks. I said, what is going on here? So there's definitely a more hopeful vibe in D.C., but I could tell you, and we're going to get into some very promising news here from the New York Times. It is so hard to realign a government back to constitutional purposes. This place wears you down. This place grinds you down to a halt. It exists, the permanent machine bureaucracy exists to extinguish the will of a well-meaning Mr. Smith goes to Washington. The bureaucracy intentionally plays things slow. It intentionally will obfuscate. It will delay. It will shrug its shoulders. It will say it has to go to a certain committee. It is a war of attrition. You see, the permanent deep state bureaucracy, they say, oh, really, you guys want to doge us? You want to cut our spending? We will outlast you. We're going to be here despite when there's elections. And that actually was the original intent of Woodrow Wilson, the Wilsonian view of government, which is to have a technocracy of elites, of the ruling class, of the philosopher kings, as Plato would say, that they're going to be there permanently and elections matter less and less. And that is one of the questions that is in front of us. And this is exactly why I want to get into this idea of triple trending counties. It's a theme that we talk about a lot here on this program because what we're seeing unfold in Washington, D.C., and I was meeting with some White House staff last night, and they are working so hard, and they deserve such credit. Because the energy alone, just to get basic stuff done, it will take your entire afternoon to just get a very simple thing done, where in the private sector at Turning Point USA, I say it and it gets done. I want to have an event on this day. Yes, Charlie, we'll do that. Thank you. We want to have this speaker. Yes, we will do that. Thank you. Where in this White House, because of the deep state government, it's like, I want to go to Saudi Arabia. Well, you might have to do this. And only because of President Trump's brute force is he able to be this productive. Remember, it was Joe Biden staffers that came out. And they said, I wish we worked for a White House when Joe Biden was president that was as agile, that was as problem solving, as entrepreneurial as President Trump. But the struggle in front of us is, will elections continue to matter? Or will elections be ceremonial, no different than putting in the King of England as someone who's there to greet Super Bowl champions, cut ribbons, fly around the country, and be nothing more than a glorified spokesperson for the country? Are we looking at a similar presidency that is a presidency in name only, no different than the monarchy in the United Kingdom? The New York Times did an amazing story this last weekend, and I got to be honest, every so often the New York Times just crushes it with their data analysis. You just got to call strikes. The New York Times, which, by the way, is like the least radical of all the rags. The Washington Post is gone. I mean, there's so many of these that are just gone. The New York Times every so often has a little glimmer of hope that they still are holding on to wanting to be a respectable newspaper. And Andrew will tell you, we deal with reporters in every single major outlet. At least the New York Times will allow us to talk to them. Some of these major outlets, they won't even take your phone call. Anyway, so what the New York Times did is they did a story of how all the counties, basically how many counties have been moving right in America in the last 3 presidential elections. And that what was so interesting about what the New York Times did. What the New York Times did is they analyzed the 2016, the 2020, and the 2024 electoral map. Because that is now 3 election cycles over the course of a decade of whether or not this is a permanent right-wing shift in our country. And the visuals are very powerful. We can put them up on screen. They are dramatic. And they coined a term, and I like it, and I want to emphasize it. Let's get the actual national map up on screen. So what you're seeing here is the percentage with a college degree by county that shifted right. If you're on podcasting or radio, we're going to put this up on screen. But the big one is 220. Let's put 220 up on screen. I want to get this framed in our office because that just goes to show the behemoth of the work that we accomplished at Turning Point Action alongside, obviously, President Trump and the entire team, and the social media juggernaut. The entire country moved to the right. It's not just one localized area. Now, there were some places in America that moved to the left. Let's put this up on screen. The suburbs of Atlanta, big problems, everybody, huge. In fact, the suburbs of Atlanta and the exurbs of Atlanta were the most left-leaning, left-tilting per capita of any counties in the country in the last 3 election cycles. The suburbs of Denver, Santa Fe, New Mexico, a couple places in Oklahoma, a couple places in central Indiana. And so we have a Georgia problem. We're going to diagnose that. We're going to do an entire show on that at a different time. Dallas a little bit, but nothing too noteworthy. But again, let's go back to the red map. I mean, these are the counties that, just to be clear, let's go back. These are the counties that moved right in all 3 elections that Trump ran in. Almost 50 million people live in these counties. So this is not just some sample size. And these are counties that were otherwise blue strongholds. As you can see in Florida, every single county moves dramatically to the right. So basically what the New York Times put together is something called triple trending counties. These are counties that trended to the right in all 3 elections that were previously controlled by Democrats. The first of which is a county called Clinton County, New York. The historical trend was that it was traditionally a Democrat-leaning county. Clinton County, New York is a great example of how the Republican Party...
We're interrupting this program for a special live report.
Rolling the dice on Bitcoin today in Las Vegas. He is taking the mic and the podium during a conference as we speak. Let's listen in.
Thank you all. Well, first of all, I want to thank, please, thank you guys. Take your seats. And, the Secret Service is a little bit nervous because I told them these Bitcoin guys really like guns. But they really like the President and Vice President of the United States, too, so I think we're doing okay. So I first have to thank David Bailey, grateful for everything that you've done for the Bitcoin community. Thanks in particular for what you did for me and the president, helping us get from candidacy to the White House, because we've done, I think, a lot of good in the past 120 days, and I don't think we could have done it without David's support. I want to also thank the Winklevoss brothers, Tyler and Cameron. These guys are out here somewhere. who, I got to say, Tyler and Cameron, I think really helped break the dam in Silicon Valley. Because if you remember, you go back to June or July of last year, it feels like forever ago. It's not even a year ago, where Silicon Valley, people would whisper in private that they were going to support Donald Trump for president. They would talk about the fact the Democrats had gone too crazy. We had to get Gary Gensler the hell out of there, but they weren't quite willing to say, at least not publicly, that they were going to take the big step and support Donald J. Trump. And Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, I think they were some of the first big names in Silicon Valley to take that step, and a whole host of people followed them. So Cameron and Tyler, thank you for that. And of course, I want to thank the good people at Coinbase, the organizers of this event, and everybody who made this incredible event possible. It's great to be here with Bitcoin at 108,000, at least when I checked this morning, and as Vice President of the United States, it's great to be here. Now, you guys know I get to meet a lot of exciting people in my job, but it's been quite a while since I've been to a conference with this level of energy. I mean, hell, you guys came out here at 9 a.m. after a long night, I'm sure, in Las Vegas. You can't do that without a lot of good energy. But I promise I'm not just saying that to juice my own meme coins. But I think it's wrong, actually, to call this just a conference. This isn't a conference of people. This is a movement, and I'm proud to stand with you here today. And I think this conference, this movement of people, is where the future of cryptocurrency in this great country gets decided. So let's start by making one thing abundantly clear. That future is going to be decided by the people, by you, not by unelected bureaucrats. Now, as you all probably know...
So we're interrupting that for President Trump. He is at the White House getting ready for swearing in.
Unbelievably well and very successful at a great law firm. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you very much. Over 5 decades, Janine Pirro, known by millions as Judge Janine, has devoted her life to the pursuit of justice, the defense of freedom, and the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. And that's what she's about. She was a great DA. I remember her very well. She was as good as anybody I've seen. She began a career in 1975 as an assistant district attorney in Westchester County, New York, where she prosecuted violent crimes, and that was a serious prosecutor. And she went after real criminals, not fake criminals like we seem to do today nowadays, people that shouldn't be prosecuted, including rape, murder, and was a tireless warrior on behalf of the most vulnerable people in our society. In that role, Janine helped create one of our country's first domestic violence bureaus. I think it was the first, Janine. And as its chief, she revolutionized victim protection and bold, innovative policies like very few people even thought of. In 1990, Janine became the first female judge in Westchester County history. And following the year, and by the way, very distinguished, had an unbelievable, distinguished career. And in the following years, she presided over numerous complex criminal cases. The reason they were complex is that other judges were not able to understand them. They were called the complex cases. My sister had them, too. They always used to give her the complex cases because other people didn't understand them, including high-stakes felony narcotics trials. Her outstanding judicial record earned her the honor of being named the #1 judge in 1990 by the Independent Fund for Modern Courts. That's nationwide. Outstanding judge. The following year, Judge Janine was elected Westchester County District Attorney, became the top prosecutor for a jurisdiction that included some of the largest suburbs in New York City, including Yonkers and White Plains. It's a big deal. As district attorney, Janine tackled high-profile violent crime cases and established one of the nation's most successful cybercrime units to combat online child abuse. She was way ahead of a lot of people. They still aren't there. If you get right down, I mean, from what I hear, they're still not there in many cases back there where we come from. In addition to her stellar legal career, Janine also excelled in news media as you know, and she's become one of the most beloved political figures through her time on television, because she's been very, very successful at a thing called television. She got out of what she was doing, and frankly, she does them both great, but she's really, to me, she'll always be known as a great lawyer and a great prosecutor, which is what she's doing now. So Janine Pirro, I have no doubt, will be an exceptional U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, one of the truly most important positions in our country, of any position, where she will restore public safety in our nation's capital, break up vicious street gangs and criminal networks, and ensure equal justice under the law. You'll see very, very big improvements in the D.C. area, that I can promise you. So I want to congratulate Janine. I want to congratulate you and Christine and your whole family on this undertaking. And as you know, Pam Bondi is doing an unbelievable job as our real leader in the fight against crime. And Pam heard about this, and Pam said, I'll have to find time for Janine. She doesn't have time to do this, but for Janine she did, and she's going to be doing the swearing in. So Pam, thank you very much for the great job you're doing and for swearing in our friend, Justice Janine. Good. Thank you. Come on up.
There we go. I do solemnly swear.
I, Janine Pirro, do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
And that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
And that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
And that I take this obligation freely.
And that I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully.
And that I will well and faithfully.
Discharge the duties.
Discharge the duties.
Of the office upon which I am about to enter.
Of the office upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam Attorney General, both my friends for many years. Long ago, I went to law school to study about justice and to bring justice to victims of violent crimes, women, children, and the elderly. I fought to give them a voice in a system that was both blind and deaf to their concerns. I dedicated my heart and soul to making sure that there was a system that responded to them. My profile and my prosecutorial successes garnered public attention, and my life took unexpected turns. Through all of this, President Trump, you have remained as steadfast as one of my earliest supporters and champions. You never wavered. You were always steadfast, trustworthy, and confident. Today, Mr. President, you bring me back to my roots. And it is a larger arena, but no less an arena where we need justice, where we need to send a message that justice will be honored in the District of Columbia. And just last week, here in our nation's capital, two people on the brink of beginning their life had hopes and dreams that were never realized because a cold-blooded murderer made a decision to shoot them down on the streets on a cold, rainy night in our nation's capital. This will not go without just accounting. My voice should be heard loud and clear. No more tolerance of hatred, no more mercy for criminals. Violence will be addressed directly with the appropriate punishment. And this city will again become a shining city on a hill in an America that President Trump has promised to make great again and will make safe again. Mr. President, America thanks you, and I thank you.
Any questions?
Oh, boy.
Anything for Janine?
You just want to talk to him. I get it.
She's going to be fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
There's
you.
no question because there's no doubt. We have no doubt you're going to be fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, on Russia. Mr. President, on Russia.
Mr. President.
On Russia, Mr. President.
Please.
Do you believe the Russians are being disrespectful when they say that your criticisms of Putin are simply an emotional response? And do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently. But it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witkoff is here, who's doing a phenomenal job, is dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this. That I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. Very, very disappointed. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you've called for an end to the Gaza war. Given the growing humanitarian crisis and the decision of Prime Minister Netanyahu to expand the military operation, do you have any frustration with his handling of the situation of the war?
No, we're dealing with the whole situation in Gaza. We're getting food to the people of Gaza. It's been a very nasty situation, very nasty fight. October 7th was a very nasty day, the worst that I think I've ever seen. It was a horrible day, and people aren't going to forget that either. So we'll see how that all works out. And Steve, would you want to say a couple of words about Gaza, because you just have some information? Steve Witkoff, do you want to come up for a second? You might give them a little bit of information as to what's happening with Gaza and also Israel. We're having some very good talks with Iran. We'll find out whether that means anything, but we're having good talks.
Congratulations. Well, hi, everybody. I think that we are on the precipice of sending out a new term sheet that hopefully will be delivered later on today. The president is going to review it, and I have some very good feelings about getting to a long-term resolution, temporary ceasefire, and a long-term resolution, a peaceful resolution of that conflict.
Mr. President, you said
having to do with Iran. We're having very good talks with
Mr. President, you said yesterday that Putin is playing with fire. What will be the consequences for Russia if Russia continues?
Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly, but the words speak pretty loud. We're not happy about that situation. I think we're doing very well with Iran. I think we're doing very well with Gaza. But we are doing very well with Iran, and I think we're going to see something very sensible, because there are only two outcomes. You know what the two outcomes is: a smart outcome and there's a violent outcome, and I don't think anybody wants to see the second. But I think we've made a lot of progress, and we'll see. You know, they still have to agree to the final stages of a document, but I think you could be very well surprised what happens there, and it'd be a great thing for them. They could have a great country into the future. Yeah.
Mr. President, Elon Musk in a television interview criticized the one big, beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the DOGE efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. So we can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was, we have no Democrats. You know, if it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. You know, if that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. we will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill, but the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of tax cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to. We'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle-income people of our country, low and middle-income people of our country. So we're going to see what happens, because the Senate, as you know, is negotiating with us, and they have to then go back to the House, and it's got a way to go. But I have to say, Speaker Johnson and Thune has done an incredible job. John Thune has done a fantastic job, and they're working together with me and others. And I think we have an amazing, if we pull this off, remember, we have 0 Democrat votes because they're bad people. There's something wrong with them. They'll let people pour into our country. Single biggest problem is we had 21 million people pour into our country, probably higher than that. And they're people that weren't supposed to be here. And many of those people are bad. Murderers, drug dealers, the mentally insane. They were closing mental institutions all over the world, not South America, all over the world. They're coming into our country, and we're getting them out. And we're having a hard time because some judges aren't making it very easy for us, and it's tough enough. They approved that. They allowed that to happen to our country. We don't have one Democrat vote. And if I were a Democrat, I'd be voting for this bill, and I'd get elected to any position I want as a Democrat. They're crazy. They're voting for a 65% tax increase, and they're only doing it for hatred. They're not doing it for any reason. They know it's terrible. Terrible politics, in my opinion. But so we have no Democrat votes. That means we have to get almost all Republican votes. And I think we're very close to doing that. I think it'll be very successful. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country, and because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. We have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me. He said, we have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number. And if you go down, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number and I go down a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead. To me, that's the nastiest question. Wait a minute. Wait. Go ahead, please.
President Zelensky says he's ready to sit down with you and Vladimir Putin in Geneva, and it sounds like General Kellogg is working on preparations for that. Are you planning to sit down with the two of them?
Well, I will if it's necessary. It takes. We have to. I think I'm at this point. I wish it would have been that way a couple of months ago, but at this point, we're working on President Putin and we'll see where we are. I think we're doing fine, but we'll see. I don't like what's happening. That's one thing I'll say. I don't like when I see rockets being shot into cities. That's no good. We're not going to allow it.
You've always said that the war never would have started if you were
Would have never happened, and it didn't happen.
He doesn't seem willing to do anything that you want him to do. Do you still believe that he wouldn't have launched the war?
No, we would have never had a war. We would have never had a war. If I were president, if the election weren't rigged, you wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had October 7th. That would have never happened because Iran was stone cold broke. They didn't have any money to give to Hamas or Hezbollah. You wouldn't have had that Afghanistan most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. You wouldn't have had any of it. You wouldn't have had inflation because energy costs. Look what happened. I brought inflation down to practically zero. And all of the groceries and all of the eggs and all of the things that you've been hearing about, they're back down. They're way down from where they were. I did something in 4 months that nobody's seen. And I have to say, in 4 months, and I said it before, and everyone's talking about it all over the world, we've got the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. We're the only country anybody's even talking about. All right, please go ahead.
What stopped you from imposing new sanctions on Russia?
Only the fact that if I think I'm close to getting a deal, I don't want to screw it up by doing that. Let me tell you, I'm a lot tougher than the people you're talking about, but you have to know when to use that. If I think it's going to hurt a deal, this isn't my war. This is Biden's war, Zelensky's war, and Putin's war. This isn't Trump's war. I'm only here for one thing, to see if I can end it, to save 5,000 lives a week and a lot of money, the money being much less important, because I made that money. I went to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE, and we brought back $5.1 trillion. So I made that money in about 2 hours, the money that we're talking about, but it's still think of it, $300 billion we've spent with no checks, no balances. They just send cash. You can imagine what's happened to that money. I never saw anything like it in my life, but I'm more interested because I picked up $5.1 trillion and, by the way, got a beautiful, big, magnificent, free airplane for the United States Air Force, okay? Very proud of that, too. They tried to say, oh, it's Trump's airplane. Oh, yeah, sure. It's too big. It's frankly, it's too big, much too big.
When can we expect that to be the Air Force One?
Well, it's here already. Yeah. It's in the country. It's being refitted for military standard.
How much will it cost to refit it?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever it is, a hell of a lot less than building a new one. We're waiting too long from Boeing. Boeing has got to get its act together. Yeah.
Sir, on Nippon Steel, this arrangement that was just announced in the Golden Share, is that an arrangement you would consider for TikTok as well?
Nothing to do with TikTok. Totally different kind of a deal. We'll have to get, to do it properly, we'll probably have to get China's approval. China's never easy. China's never easy. But I think we'll be able to save TikTok. I'd like to save TikTok. I mean, TikTok was very good to me. I won the young people by 37%. No Republicans ever won, and I won by 37%. And Charlie Kirk will tell you TikTok helped. But Charlie Kirk helped also. He just happens to be here. Look at him. He loves that we mentioned that name, right, Charlie? He's done great, and I appreciate all the help. But with young people, we won by 37%, Charlie, and you helped. But TikTok was amazing. And he was the first one. He said, get on TikTok. So I have a little bit of a warm spot. I know I shouldn't. They'll say quid pro quo, put him in jail for the rest of his life, quid pro quo. No, TikTok, but it was something happened. No Republican has ever won they call them young people. Young people, you can define it a lot of different ways, but I won every age group in young people. And it never happened, and won by 37%. That's a lot. Yeah.
Back on Iran, did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. Next question, please.
Sanctions.
I did, yeah.
If Senate Republicans want to push
It's not a warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him?
I just said I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now. Because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. So no trust. I want it very strong, where we can go in with inspectors, we can take whatever we want, we can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up, right? Two ways of doing it. Yeah, I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to a solution. Now, that could change at any moment, could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal, and if we can make a deal, save a lot of lives.
When do you think a deal could happen on Iran? When do you
On which?
A deal with Iran could happen. When do you
I don't know. I think over the next couple of weeks, if it happens. Yeah.
And on the when could the administration resume the interviews for foreign students visa? When do you think your administration could resume these interviews?
On what?
For the foreign student visa. Yesterday there was
for the French visa.
For the French, all the foreign students.
Oh, for the foreign visas. What are you referring? Foreign visas for what? Are you talking about for colleges? Okay, so you're off of Israel. Now you're talking about colleges, right?
Yes, now.
Okay. Well, we're going to see. Look, Harvard has been a disaster. They've taken $5 billion plus. $5 billion. Nobody knew that they were making this kind. If we didn't do this, we would have never found this out, Pam. They're taking $5 billion. And I'd rather see that money go to trade schools. And by the way, they're totally anti-Semitic at Harvard, as you know, and some other colleges, too, in all fairness to them. And it's been exposed, very exposed. And I think they're dealing very badly. Every time they fight, they lose another $250 million. Yesterday, we found another $100 million. And they have, they have a fund, an endowment, $52 billion. All right? They get a lot of that from the United States, and I think it's ridiculous. I think everyone's coming up to me saying, we love the idea of trade schools with that kind of money, and money from others, but money from them. You can have the best trade schools anywhere in the world. You give them to Iowa, India, give them the money. They can only be used for trade schools, and they'll teach people how to build motors and cars and AI. The AI, we're building plants. We're building hundreds of billions of dollars worth of AI plants. Already started, many of them. We've never had a boom like we're having now. You're going to see it. There's never been anything like it. So we're up to about $14 trillion in investments. There's never been anything even close. You look at Biden, this guy, they had people leaving as opposed to investing. And they're doing it because of November 5th, and they're doing it because of the tariffs. The tariffs have been tremendous. I can promise you, and I have great respect for the people at the European Union, they wouldn't be over here today negotiating if I didn't put a 50% tariff on. The sad thing is now when I make a deal with them, it's something much more reasonable. They'll say, oh, he was chicken. He was chicken. That's so unbelievable. I usually have the opposite problem. They say, you're too tough.
Mr. President, on Harvard, there were some Jewish students protesting on campus yesterday. They said they don't want you making these huge cuts, cutting off student visas to Harvard in their name, because they feel
Harvard
like
has to show us
a target.
Okay, Harvard has to show us their lists. They have foreign students. About 31% of their students are foreign-based, almost 31%. We want to know where those students come. Are they troublemakers? What countries do they come? And we're not going to, if somebody is coming from a certain country and they're 100% fine, which I hope most of them are, but many of them won't be, you're going to see some very radical people. They're taking people from areas of the world that are very radicalized, and we don't want them making trouble in our country. So I saw yesterday that in the middle of the UK, there was a nice young man. He wants to go back to school at Harvard, and he looked good to me, but I want to check his past. But we want to be able to see why, these countries aren't helping us. They're not investing in Harvard and all of we are. So why would 31%, why would a number so big? I think, number one, I think they should have a cap of maybe around 15%. Not 31%. We have people want to go to Harvard and other schools. They can't get in. because we have foreign students there. But I want to make sure that the foreign students are people that can love our country. We don't want to see shopping centers exploding. We don't want to see the kind of riots that you had. And I'll tell you what, many of those students didn't go anywhere. Many of those students were troublemakers caused by the radical left lunatics in this country. All right, one more question. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Will you pardon the people who are accused of conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer?
I'm going to look at it. I will take a look at it. It's been brought to my attention. I did watch the trial. It looked to me like somewhat of a railroad job. I'll be honest with you. It looked to me like some people said some stupid things. You know, they were drinking, and I think they said stupid things. But I'll take a look at that. And a lot of people are asking me that question from both sides, actually. A lot of people think they got railroaded. A lot of people think they got railroaded. And probably some people don't. One more. Go ahead.
How will the confrontation with Harvard end? Do you foresee?
I don't know. I don't know. Harvard's got to behave themselves. Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect, and all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. They've got to behave themselves. You know, I'm looking out for the country and for Harvard. I want Harvard to do well. I want Harvard to be great again, probably, because how could it be great? How could it be great when you have Harvard announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to teach remedial mathematics, remedial, meaning they're going to teach low-grade mathematics, like 2 + 2 is 4. How did these people get into Harvard if they can't do basic mathematics? How did they do it? I mean, people with 1,600 in their boards don't get in, and they're letting people in, and they're bragging about how they're teaching them basic mathematics. Where did these people come from? So we have to look at the list, and Harvard has to understand the last thing I want to do is hurt them. They're hurting themselves. They're fighting. You know, Columbia has been really, they were very, very bad what they've done. They're very anti-Semitic and lots of other things. But they're working with us on finding a solution. And, you know, they're taking off that hot seat. But Harvard wants to fight. They want to show how smart they are. And they're getting their ass kicked. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Headed right back out this door. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Head out. Thanks, guys. Let's go. Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Keep going. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So that was President Trump at the swearing in for Janine Pirro, Judge Janine Pirro. She has now been sworn in as the attorney for the District of Columbia. That swearing in happening there in the Oval Office with President Trump presiding. Also, a number of other officials there on hand. And then, of course, there at the end, you heard the president having to answer questions about his latest face-off with Harvard University. All right, folks, that's a quick check of your news break. But now let's get you back to the Charlie Kirk Show.
It's the Charlie Kirk Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. We have an amazing summer coming up, including our Young Women's Leadership Summit and our Student Action Summit. Our Young Women's Leadership Summit is right around the corner, coming up in Dallas, Texas. We'll be broadcasting live. My wife will be speaking there. I'll be speaking there. It's going to be amazing. Let's play Cut 51, please. That is YWS2025.com. That is YWS2025.com. Check it out. It's going to be an amazing event in Dallas, Texas. YWS2025.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Email us, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to our podcast. There's something happening with our farmland here in America that isn't getting enough attention. The Chinese have been buying up hundreds of thousands of acres of U.S. farmland. They've taken control over critical supply chains, things like fertilizer, animal feed, and farming equipment. Why? It's clear they're tightening their grip on global food production. And if things go south, we need to be ready. That's why I trust My Patriot Supply. They're America's largest emergency preparedness company. And right now, when you get their 4-week emergency food supply, you'll get 4 free 72-hour food kits and an extra 12 days of food absolutely free. That's 4 weeks of delicious meals that last up to 25 years, delivering 2,000 plus calories per day, shipped fast and shipped free. We can't control what China does, but we can control how prepared we are. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com today to claim your 12 days of free food. That is MyPatriotSupply.com, MyPatriotSupply.com. Portions of the Charlie Kirk Show are brought to you in part by MyPatriotSupply.com. So there's a lot of attention right now around Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's new book. By the way, we should invite Jake Tapper on the show. I should text him. I am not going to let this go. Jake Tapper smeared me as an anti-Semite during the Republican National Convention when I was speaking. That one I'm not going to forget about. Sometimes people say stuff I kind of do. Of all the smears that you can throw at me, to call me an anti-Semite during one of the biggest moments of my career, which was a keynote speech at the RNC, I'm sorry. I have words for that, and you are far from a journalist, Jake Tapper. I don't care about all these overtures. Let's be honest. If Kamala Harris would have won the presidency, would this book be coming out? It's the only question that matters. The only question that matters is, would this book be published if Kamala Harris would have won? So, Jake, you're welcome on our program anytime. And I expect an apology if you were to come on the show. Laura Trump got an apology. Do we? It's tough to get right now. For later in the week, can we get Jake Tapper? He was on this ridiculous panel of people on CNN. CNN decided not to take my speech. They were mocking me while I was giving my speech. Oh, can't the RNC do better than this, Charlie Kirk? And it was all plotted. The New York Times wrote an article hours before the CNN, let's just say, drive-by. In the great words of Rush Limbaugh, it was a drive-by, the drive-by media, an ambush. So I go on stage. Meanwhile, the New York Times, which Andrew spent a whole day arguing with that reporter from the New York Times, Jonathan Weissman, calls me an anti-Semite, saying Charlie Kirk's, what was the title? Like, disturbing anti-Semitic. I said, again, of all the criticisms you could throw towards me, I am writing a book on why you should honor the Shabbat. My number one criticism when I go from people on the right is that I'm too pro-Israel or whatever. Like, it's just kind of nauseating thing. Charlie Kirk, long accused of anti-Semitism, is set for a primetime speech. Oh, thanks, Jonathan Weissman. I'm sorry, that one of the reasons why people are falling out of favor of the pro-Israel movement is because of crap like this. I'll be very honest. It's like beyond demoralizing. It's like, okay, so I defend Israel on campus every single day, that the New York Times call me an anti-Semite, and then you have Jake Tapper peddle that garbage on CNN during a primetime audience for 9 minutes straight while I am giving one of the biggest speeches in my career. Charlie Kirk, long accused of anti-Semitism, is set for a primetime speech. Long accused. And then Jake Tapper peddled it. And people don't understand, though. They rattle off these 500-word pieces, like 10 a day during the RNC, and they do it to undermine the speakers so that the low IQ clamoring hosts have something to talk about. Here we go. This is 291. Well done, Ryan. This is Jake Tapper calling me an anti-Semite during the RNC speech. I'll never forget this. Play cut 291.
Charlie Kirk is speaking right now. He's the head of a right-wing student group called Turning Points. This is the second speaker this evening who has said things that are blatantly anti-Semitic.
It's anti-Semitism, and it's more broadly just he swims in oceans of conspiracy.
I'm sorry, Jake. I'm not going to all of a sudden platform your book, which you would not have published if Kamala Harris was president. You're a bad person, and the entire movement doesn't deserve an apology. You should just resign. You're a joke. You're the scum of the earth. Second hour coming up.
America's Voice family.
Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored.
And it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec.
And so many more.
And the best part?
You can watch Real America's Voice right there on Getter.
Live.
So join the conversation.
Hop on the Getter chat room.
Engage with patriots who are just like you.
Good morning, Getter friends.
We're breaking news, we're delivering the truth,
and we're doing it on Getter
every single day.
So don't wait. Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community.
Back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. 14 state attorneys general have the green light this morning to move forward with a lawsuit against Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency. They're specifically challenging Doge's efforts to cut federal spending, saying that there's no law authorizing Musk to slash budgets. They also are trying to stop Doge from closing federal agencies. The top law enforcement officials from New Mexico, Oregon, and 12 other states filed suit alleging that President Trump has given Musk, quote, unchecked legal authority without authorization from Congress. While D.C. federal court judge Tanya Chutkan upheld the case against Musk, she dismissed claims against President Trump, saying that her court couldn't interfere with the performance of his official duties as president. This latest lawsuit is among about 20 that have been filed in various federal courts, pushing back against Elon Musk's authority as the head of Doge. Doge isn't the only challenge Elon Musk is facing. He's also dealing with another failed launch of his SpaceX mega rocket Starship. The 403-foot rocket blasted off for its 9th demo Tuesday evening. It nearly made it to space, but then spiraled back to Earth and crashed in the Indian Ocean. SpaceX is calling it, quote, a rapid, unscheduled disassembly. Tuesday's launch came after back-to-back explosions during previous launch attempts. SpaceX was hoping to release a series of mock satellites following liftoff, but that part of the mission failed because the door wouldn't open all the way. Musk is now promising to launch a Starship every 3 to 4 weeks for the next 3 flights. Those Starships are ultimately intended to travel to the moon and to Mars. From senator to governor, that is former college football coach and now Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville's plan. He's looking to ride the Auburn War Eagle all the way to the governor's mansion.
But I'm doing this to help this country and the great state of Alabama. I'm a football coach. I'm a leader. I'm a builder. I'm a recruiter. And we're going to grow Alabama. We're going to bring manufacturing to the state. We're going to stop this illegal immigration. We're going to make education better again. And we're going to do everything possible to make sure our kids, when they've graduated in this great state, the Yellowhammer State, that they stay in this state and work. We're going to have workforce development. So, Will, we got a lot of work to do nationally. I'm looking forward to that with President Trump. He's got us on the right track.
Tuberville will be running for governor in his home state next year. If Tuberville wins and leaves his Senate seat, he'll likely be replaced by another Republican, as his district is solid Republican. Harvard University could soon be persona non grata when it comes to federal agencies. The federal government's General Services Administration reportedly sent a letter to all federal agencies on Tuesday, directing them to review and potentially terminate or reallocate contracts with the university. This latest blow to the Ivy League school could cost it about $100 million. The Trump administration has already frozen nearly $3 billion in federal research grants to the school. The president also seeking to stop the university's ability to enroll international students, which makes up about 27% of the school's total enrollment. The administration's moves could affect Harvard's financial stability and its global standing. Harvard, by the way, is the nation's oldest and wealthiest university. That's a quick check of your headlines. Tax day may have passed, but for millions of Americans, the real trouble is just now beginning. If you happen to miss the April 15th deadline, or if you still owe back taxes, the IRS is ramping up enforcement. Every day you wait only makes things worse. With over 5,000 new tax liens filed every day and tools like property seizures, bank levies, and wage garnishments, the IRS is applying pressure at levels that we haven't seen in years. Increased administrative scrutiny means collections are moving fast. Here's the good news. There's still time for Tax Network USA to help. Self-employed or a business owner? Well, even if your books are a mess, they've got it covered for you. Tax Network USA specializes in cleaning up financial chaos and getting you back on track fast. Even after the deadline, it's not too late to regain control. Your consultation is completely free, and acting now could stop penalties, threatening letters, and surprise levies before they escalate. Call 800-905-8000 or visit tnusa.com/RAV. You may have missed April 15th, but you haven't run out of options just yet. Let Tax Network USA help before the
Okay, everyone, I'm still in D.C., but I have a huge announcement that we recorded in studio last week with Ty Gooch. We launched the Turning Point Academy prep year. We sat down and talked to him about it. I encourage you guys right now to go to turningpointacademy.com. That is turningpointacademy.com. If you are in a position where you say, boy, I don't want to send my kid to college, but I'm not sure what to do, we have developed something called Prep Year, where you get 1 year before you go to college to learn the most beautiful of all the things: the faith, the gospel of Jesus Christ, about America and Western civilization. So go to turningpointacademy.com and enjoy this major announcement. Okay, everybody, very excited for an announcement from Turning Point Academy. How many of you in the audience right now are thinking about going to college, but you know that college might not be for you? How many of you are a parent right now or a grandparent, and you have a young grandkid or kid that is like, I don't know if I want to go to this school, and you actually want them to learn something? Well, we are here to announce Turning Point Academy Prep Year. And the man behind it all is Dr. Ty Gooch at Turning Point Academy. Doctor, great to see you.
Great to see you too. Glad to be here.
And this is a super exciting announcement, and honestly blessed that we're able to talk about this. What is Turning Point Academy Prep Year?
It is the culmination of what you and Dr. Hertzberg, Chief Education Officer, have been working on to prepare students for life, to be leaders, to have impact, and if they go on to college, to be ready to be influencers when they get there.
And so essentially what it is, and I want to get into the specifics, is that this is an opportunity not to go to four-year college, but to be immersed into the details and into the great books and the great ideas from a biblical perspective to actually recreate what college should be. Is that correct?
That's right. Training of the mind, whole life transformation. The program will include mentors that come in like yourself to help students understand economics from a biblical worldview perspective, and how to read and process through the great writings of Western civilization in a way that has a biblical infusion of truth at the foundation of them.
Yeah, so let's walk through technically how this works. So someone is going to, we already have people that have signed up, and people can check it out at turningpointacademy.com. That's turningpointacademy.com. They're going to, this is going to be in Fort Worth this year, correct?
That's right.
And we already have some people that have signed up, and they are going to do what exactly? They move into dorms, and they're going to really create what college should be.
Yeah, but that would be a short-sighted statement of what the facilities are like. They're incredible facilities. The accommodations are off the charts. There's going to be a retreat center, conference center-like experience for the students. The size of the dorms, the excellence of the dorms, but more than just the experience on the outside, it's the way that their hearts and lives will be transformed. There'll be a week-long modular training format where, from a classical education perspective, helping students learn with rhetoric, helping students learn in a collegial style of learning where they don't just listen from lecture content, but they actually learn to engage and to think, and then with virtue and wisdom, how to apply the truths that they're learning.
So yeah, talk more about that. And also talk about your background. How did you lead to this? You're a PhD. You also played college football, which is awesome. Like your journey, like tell our audience about this and why you feel Prep Year is such an important project for the country and the kingdom.
I've been involved in Christian ministry for the better part of the last 25 years. Prior to which, I did play football at Northwestern University, and I see you have a Big Ten representation back there.
I'm going to the Oregon Ducks Northwestern game.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Those tickets were so expensive because they're retrofitting their field.
And I won't ask you who you're going to vote, who you're going to be for.
Probably the Ducks, but my mom did go to Northwestern.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So that experience, though, it was one where I learned myself to learn to engage with what it meant to stand for my faith.
Yes.
So I went from there and went and got a Master's of Divinity, and not a PhD, but a doctorate in ministry, which is relevant for this program because of the application of truth to life. And so as a part of this last 25 years of serving in ministry, mostly pastoral, I've also been in Christian education. Just focused on teaching seniors in high school biblical worldview at a couple of different Christian schools, at a Bible college, a senior seminar, capstone classroom program context, where it's so evident students need to learn to finish well so they can go be influencers right away. Young leaders already leading in many ways, now being prepared not just to go and sort of flail in the context of the ideologies that are being pumped out by some institutions, but to go and to flourish in what it means to be girded up in their faith and to influence others toward the ways of Christ.
So tell us more about what you would teach in that biblical worldview? Were you a teacher, a guest speaker, a seminar, and as these were seniors in high school? Talk about that more.
Yeah, it's really a holistic perspective from the beginnings of understanding the clarity of what it means to understand the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? The perfect life and sacrificial death and resurrection from the dead of Christ. That's so critical that they understand it's not just a general faith, a general belief. There's specific tenets of the faith that are necessary. And so from that standpoint, then moving to what do I do in response to the gospel? How do I live? How do I think? What does marriage look like? What does stewardship look like of the gifts that I've been given, also of the resources that I've been able to glean, of the talents and skills? So all of that, in addition to some of the more nuanced aspects of intellect, right?
Yes.
The Bible makes it super clear, Charlie, super clear, that the beginning of knowledge and wisdom
is the fear of the Lord.
It's the fear of the Lord.
Yes.
Right. And so to start there and to think, oh, I really don't need to go beyond here to get to where God wants me to go. And so to help students understand, yes, let's bring all of the intellect of the world in.
Let us reason together, it says in the book of Isaiah, right?
That's right. That's right. Bring it all in here and then watch how it is redefined and ultimately pushed aside by the truths that come from Scripture.
So you did that for 20 years, you said?
So in large part, yes. But then in Christian education, as a guest lecturer, as an overseer of interns for undergrad and master's students, yes.
What did you see that changed over the years when you taught this to students?
Yeah, the lack of biblical literacy.
From Christian students?
From Christian students, and oftentimes in Christian schools. Number one question, always answered with a no. Have you been taught how to study the truth for yourself? Negative, 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 across the board. Even with some students that are actually in college, in Bible colleges as a guest lecturer or in a senior seminar context. And so it's a great opportunity to help the students that apply. And some of these students are just the best representation in certain categories of excellence. One student that's applied and been accepted, a 33 on the ACT. Another student, 2 students already accepted at well-known institutions across the country with scholarship money. They're putting that on pause.
They're coming to prep year.
So that they can come prepare to go use that education to the best of its ability.
And this is what college should be at the core. And it really, so again, this is turningpointacademy.com, and Turning Point Academy is doing so much great work. But there is an immediate kind of call to action because we have a deadline, essentially, right?
Yeah, it is. It's approaching. And this is the most unique opportunity that a student, especially a student that wants to go be a leader, could have because of generous donors. Building on the foundation of Turning Point Academy, where we have the Educator Summit coming up July 10th through the 13th for all educators across the globe. Great opportunity. Go to our website. You can see more there. But this opportunity is time sensitive because we've had generous donors donate the equivalent of $20,000 scholarships for every student that's accepted.
And so they have to pay very little, almost to nothing.
Yeah,
right?
the students that get accepted, they'll pay a $1,000 deposit fee just to let us know that they're seriously committed after they go through the interview process.
That's incredible. And so I want to go back to something you said, and I'm sure that Turning Point Prep Year will dive into this. Have you been taught how to learn the truth? Can you say that again and contextualize that more, please?
Right. So in seminary context, in Bible training context, it's called hermeneutics. How to get at the truth. Everybody has access to the truth, but it's important to learn how to study the truth. Why? So that I don't bring I do as much as I can to put aside my inclinations and I let the scriptures speak for themselves. We are overrun right now with people quoting from the Bible out in culture saying, oh, this is Jesus, this is truth. And they're really not representing the truth of Jesus at all. They're representing what they thought culture would demand and impose upon them, and then they're slapping scripture on top of it. Instead of that, let's push culture aside. Let's let the scriptures speak for themselves, and then let the scriptures define culture, which is so much of what you do and what you have done with Turning Point in many, many regards. So hermeneutics, how to study the Bible. Let me learn step by step, simple. It's not studying Hebrew, it's not studying Greek, but there are simple God-centered ways, not people-centered ways to learn to study the Bible. There's one of the methods is just look, learn, live. Look at the text, see what the author's saying to the original audience, learn from the scriptures based on what it objectively says, and then let's figure out how to live it out.
We'll be right back with more of this exciting announcement with Dr. Ty Gooch from turningpointacademy.com. But first, I need to tell you guys about Z Factor. Are you having trouble getting to sleep? Sleep is the silent advantage that you might not be tapping into. Go to relieffactor.com. That is relieffactor.com to learn more about Z-Factor. It can get you the sleep that you need. You see, Z-Factor is amazing. Z-Factor goes beyond just melatonin. Z-Factor uses a combination of 4 natural ingredients to help relax your mind so you fall asleep quicker. Once you're asleep, it helps you stay asleep. It's 100% drug-free, no groggy feeling when you wake up. Right now, pay only $19.95 for a 30-day supply, a 46% savings. Better sleep without drugs. See how Z-Factor can get you the Z's you need. Go to relieffactor.com. That is relieffactor.com. Be right back, everybody.
More than 3 hours, then 4 years at a woke university. And it's free. The Charlie Kirk Show.
Welcome back. Here's more with my conversation with Dr. Ty Gooch. But first, I want to tell you guys about our amazing partnership with YREFI. That is YREFY.com. By the way, I love hearing from you. Email me, freedom@charliekirk.com, or become a member today, members.charliekirk.com, to watch the entire conversation. YREFI have been great supporters of our campus tour, of our events. That is YREFI.com. Private student loan debt in America is about $300 billion, which means somebody in this audience probably is suffering under private student loan debt. You know somebody that's suffering under private student loan debt. It's a major issue. YREFI is not a debt settlement company. Very important. They work with each borrower individually, tailoring each loan to each borrower's specific situation. You will not be calling a faceless call center. Go to yrefi.com, call 888-YREFI34, or log on to yrefy.com. You don't have to ignore that mountain of student loan statements on your kitchen table anymore. Do you have a co-borrower? Well, YRefi can get them released from the loan. Go to yrefi.com. If you have distressed or defaulted private student loans, nobody is coming to bail you out. Go to yrefi.com. That is YREFY.com. Here's more with Dr. Ty Gooch. Email me, freedom@charliekirk.com, and head to turningpointacademy.com/prep here now if you are interested. And let's apply that then to, would you say that most students coming into prep year have had a Christian education of some sort?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They are, at this point, for the applicants that we've gotten, number one, off the charts in several ways. Some are worship leaders at their churches or in their context. Some are already super skilled in the area of graphic design and photography, etc. All of them have a testimony of how the gospel of Christ has already impacted their lives. Many of them already have begun to lead in spiritual context on their campuses or in their homeschool context. And now they're just eager for somebody to come alongside them to help them grow in what they've done. You wouldn't believe this. One of the students, we learned through the interview process, she had just written a document to the local governor to challenge the public office about the importance of taking a stand on important biblical issues. A 30-page document, well written, presented it. And so we get on this interview, and then she says, well, I just got back from this event, right? What was it, a sports event, a local? No. She's standing for important things in our culture for Christ.
Amazing. And so what would you say the end result success would be after 9 months of Turning Point Academy prep year?
Students will have been thoroughly exposed to what it looks like to walk with Christ because of a biblical understanding of prayer life and spiritual pursuits. They will be involved in what it means to also go and serve in the community in various contexts. They'll take trips to the capital of the state that we're in. We'll take trips to public office. And at the end, they'll be fortified in their understanding of biblical worldview in a way that equips them to walk into a myriad of different opportunities, whether it's military, whether it's entrepreneurship in the marketplace, whether it's going to focus on preparing to be a homemaker, whether it's preparing for public office. They'll have clarity on how their background, their aptitude, their skill sets apply to those different contexts.
What would you say is the biggest problem facing Christian education?
Yeah, the biggest problem facing Christian education is that it's oftentimes marketed as something that it used to be, that it no longer is, right? Something that's going to help students understand how to think properly. And I wouldn't suggest that that's what it is. I just remember sitting at this incredible institution, undergrad, receiving class or lecture, and the professor espouses this content. And I'm a freshman, and I thought, oh, he's telling us these facts. I'm taking notes. And I raised my hand and asked a question. And I asked, So these facts you're helping us understand, and he paused, just wait, they're not facts, they're theories. I had no more questions because I thought I want to hear facts. I want to hear data that is true and time tested. I don't want to hear theories. I can go read about those on my own as I so choose. I want the information that's necessary. So that now is, I would say, one of the biggest divides. Is the data, the information that's being presented, is it fact? Or is it theory, ideological, and from culture and essentially from man? Whereas classical education, foundation, information, moving on to the middle stage, which is understanding, moving to virtue and wisdom, which education, I've heard you say, education
needs to lead forth.
Yeah, it needs to move into that. Now, public education is saying that they don't extend virtue and wisdom. But they are trying to infuse with the ideologies, a way in which it's applied. So we've got a great partner in our host in Dallas, in Fort Worth.
Talk more about that.
You couldn't have a better first year start because the leaders, Dr. Dockery and at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, so many like-minded leaders there, the provost and the dean of students, great leaders that are going to help us just by helping the environment be created and to create a means through which students might find another one of the pathways, which is academia, where they go in to be influencers. Maybe they're not a lawyer, but they go into the academia context and get degrees that will have helpful payoff, not just for what they benefit from financially, but how they can impact the culture.
And they'll also be exposed to the civic virtues as well from a biblical perspective, correct? Why is it that self-government and free speech are biblical? Talk about that as well.
Yeah, so we'll already on turningpointacademy.com, there are resources for young students and older students alike to understand the Constitution, to understand the Bill of Rights, to walk through economics. And our leader, Jennifer Burns, the director of academics, she's laid out a great set of resources. Well, when these students get into the Prep Your program, they're going to walk through a fresh version, but from a biblical worldview. They'll understand that as you related to free speech. You chatted a little bit about that just recently. Yes. And to understand that even from Exodus, for instance, everybody knows the story of Exodus, where the Israelites were freed from slavery in Egypt. And everybody thinks it's about them being treated poorly, which that did matter to God's heart. But the most redundant, the most thorough expression of concern that God had is that they weren't free to worship him as he had prescribed. And so, yes, we will help students understand the importance of having the right to free speech, having the right to gather freely and to express worship to God in the ways that he described.
Governor of the great state of Alabama. I've still got 18 months to go with President Trump to make America great again. We got a lot of work to do. Monday we'll go back and pass the big, beautiful bill for President Trump. But I'm doing this to help this country and the great state of Alabama.
That was former college football coach and current U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama. He'll be running for governor in his home state next year. Senator Tuberville is promising to boost manufacturing in Alabama, along with improving education and stopping illegal immigration. If Tuberville wins and leaves his Senate seat, he'll likely be replaced by another Republican, as his district is solid Republican. 14 state attorneys general have the green light to move forward with a lawsuit against Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency. They're specifically challenging DOGE efforts to cut federal spending, saying that there's no law authorizing Musk to slash budget. That's a quick check of your headlines. This July, there's a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers, including China, Russia, India, and Iran, are meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. currency as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset. As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, global demand for U.S. dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of the dollars in your savings. While this transition won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset in July marks a pivotal moment when BRICS objectives move decisively from theoretical possibility towards inevitable reality. So learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. The Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free information kit on gold simply by texting the name America to the number 989898. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of satisfied customers, let the Birch Gold Group arm you with a free, no-obligation information kit on owning gold before July and before the Rio Reset. Simply text the word America to the number 989898 today.
Of the MAGA doctrine and president of Turning Point USA, here's Charlie Kirk.
Okay, well, back with more, but first I need to tell you guys about TikTok. You know, a lot of people are asking, Charlie, what is it with TikTok? Why are you partnering with them? Well, honestly, it's because of the impact. I'm not just doing this for, no good reason. Understand, we have reached billions and billions and billions of people on TikTok. America's small businesses rely on TikTok to succeed, helping them attract more customers and drive more growth. From small batch sellers to fast-growing brands, and ours reaching billions of views, 74% of businesses on TikTok say it's helped them scale by hiring more employees, boosting sales, and expanding to new locations. Like Arizona Taco King, who grew from a mom-and-pop taco cart to 2 thriving restaurants in just a year. Or Coco Asante, who upgraded to a larger facility and brought on more staff, letting their handcrafted chocolates reach more customers. With TikTok, small businesses are thriving, finding their customers, and expanding. Learn more about TikTok's contribution to the U.S. economy at TikTokeconomicimpact.com. That's learn more about the U.S. economy at TikTokeconomicimpact.com. Portions of our program are brought to you in part by TikTok.
It is God's heart for humanity and for his people to live in a free society. He does not, tyranny is not in God's plan for his people. Mm-hmm. So the talk more about like what a model day would be in a Turning Point Academy prep year.
That's great. The students are going to be in a cohort format. So they'll be on this campus in this retreat center-like context, and they'll wake up in the morning. It'll be mostly classroom context in the morning, or there'll be an expert that comes in for the given week to focus on content, not just delivery, but content exchange, helping the students work through how to apply what they're hearing, what they're learning. So that'll be generally a morning context of learning. And then they'll move to the afternoon, where it'll focus more on experience. And we'll get out, and there'll be physical challenges where we do hikes together. Nothing too extreme, but just helping students understand that this is a whole life perspective of the gospel impacting someone's life. So they'll go on hikes. So we'll go visit different museums and different things like that. We're going to come to America Fest.
Amazing.
In December, and that'll cap off the end of the year. But that's generally what a day looks like. And then the evening, there'll be some time. They will do some work. They'll do some reading in the evening, and they'll have lots of time to interact with one another in their cohort context. At Southwestern Theological Seminary, Baptist Seminary, the facility has a swimming pool, they have a fitness center, and so almost 200 acres of property.
You get the kind of college amenities.
That's right. In an incredibly intentional context. Super safe, right? If I'm a parent sending my kid off to a place I've never been to before, super safe. The environment there is everything a parent could want and more.
And it will also lead itself to what college should be, which means partnership, right? And talk about some of the instructors. You yourself will be presenting quite a lot. And I can't think of almost any other college where they'll get this kind of singular instruction, because the class sizes, quote unquote, will not be hundreds of people.
No, it'll certainly be under 100. And this first year, it'll probably be closer to 30 to 40.
Which is amazing. You think about the value proposition for a student. It's incredible, right?
Yeah. The intentionality, the ability to interact with the mentors, not just in that context, but also, Lord willing, long term. And so that exchange is going to be super valuable, in addition to the students learning to take what they learn and take it back to where they go to next.
Yeah, so let's talk more about, just for a second here, equipping disciples, because that really is the goal. And what would you say are some of the, not just approaches, the hermeneutical ones, but also just from a theological perspective, some of the things that you've learned, and I know you touched on this, but some errors that you want to try to right at this work you're doing at Turning Point Academy?
Yeah, the Apostle Paul makes some things super clear, and in parts in the book of Acts and in some of Luke's writings, but there's this tension that exists. And the tension is, am I going to choose to please man, or am I going to choose to please God?
In Acts 5.
Yeah, that's right. And also in Romans 12 and several other places, yes. Right? And so as it relates to that, students are going to understand there's some things that God not only asks, not only invites, but he commands these things of us. And then he says, you can't do both in Galatians 1:10. You can't please man and please God.
I love that.
Caveat, unless man wants what God wants. And then that's how you can get your twofer. But that's not up to me.
Yes.
It's up to me to just stand for what God says I ought to stand for. So helping students understand what it means to live for courage, and Bill Federer and yourself and people like you, Erwin Lutzer as well, coming into
phenomenal.
Yeah, just because
and Dr. Hertzberg as well.
Dr. Hertzberg, that absolutely for sure, time-tested truth tellers with humility and strength and grace all wrapped up in one package. So I would say that's what makes it distinctive. It's not just information being delivered, but it's with courage and clarity, which is another thing that Paul says. Just make open statements of the truth. Make open statements of the truth. Don't worry about trying to package it and trying to figure out
I've never heard anyone say that before.
It's Paul's heart, because he's concerned.
Where did Paul say that?
He says it in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3 through 4. And
that's amazing.
In his first book to the church in Corinth, he says, don't come with wisdom and knowledge of man. Why? There's something at stake. Because if you don't choose to proclaim the gospel of Christ and Jesus Christ resurrected, then you have the risk of teaching people to follow you and avoiding following God. Because then the power now isn't about me, and it's not. Yes, I'm going to live and die.
That was Moses' great sin.
Yeah, that's right.
Because he thought he could actually turn the rock into water. Okay, that's amazing. So it's turningpointacademy.com. And so the people can apply right now.
They can. There's a 3-step process.
Walk through that, please.
On the website, it walks right through at the bottom when you go to turningpointacademy.com/prep year. You go scroll down to the bottom. I've given you all the content, so just get right down to it and get to the first step, which is to fill out an interest form. But time is running short because the spaces are filling up, and we don't have forever. Yes. We just want to solidify and start moving forward. So
it's this September,
fall 2025, because of generous donors. Yep. Generous donors have said, we want this to happen. We want it to happen now. And so we say, yes, of course, we want this to happen too.
Yes.
So they go to phase 2. They can go right to phase 2 right now, and they can fill out the application and then send off their reference forms, after which we will set them up for an interview, and the process will get going from there.
I will say that what you've put together and the team has put together at Turning Point Academy, this will be far more life-changing than just another year at college. You'll dive deep into these ideas. You'll come out as a sharp biblical citizen, And it will take some work too, right?
It will. Yeah, it will. It's not a lazy program. It's not just come and, sit by the poolside. But it's going to be, and it's not just going to be academically engaging. It's going to engage their hearts. It's going to challenge some of their preconceptions. Yeah, it will.
And provoke them towards the higher things and the ultimate purpose.
That's right.
Well, we're super excited, Dr. Gooch. Any final thoughts here? And thank you for joining the team and about education or what we're trying to do at Turning Point Academy.
It's great to be a part of the team. And I would just say, go to turningpointacademy.com /prep
You hear that, everybody? Do that right now.
And apply. Yeah, you won't find a better opportunity, and the scholarships won't last forever. So get in on it and make sure that you get the opportunity to come.
So right now, just so you hear it, if you are a high school senior,
18 to 20 years old.
Oh, okay. Or if you're not.
You may have graduated last year and you may have realized that there isn't a great option you're excited about. Come, we'll help you get it figured out.
And it's super affordable. And you might be just drifting, or you might just kind of be wondering, it's an amazing opportunity, right? That you could go in Fort Worth, Texas, and combines foundational classical, Christian, and civic curriculum with immersive skill-based environment. I mean, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah, I would say so.
Is there anything like this in the country?
There's nothing exactly like this. And even if someone created it, what hasn't happened is it hasn't been created for a scholarship exchange for free.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it like this idea of a prep year, and this could get really big. I mean, this could get thousands of students that...
Every time people hear about it, they want it more and they want it in their city. And it is coming to Illinois next fall.
Yep.
So renovations.
Maybe Virginia.
That's right. That's right. And so it's already lined up, contract signed, committed to work with our partners at Judson University with Dr. Kroom there.
Well, then the other advantage is that since they're on a college campus, they get some of the college campus vibe or activities and energy, right?
That's right. They get a chance to kind of peer in and maybe even to influence.
Yes.
Yes.
Because they'll be learning stuff they might not always be learning there.
Absolutely.
Dr. Gooch, thank you so much. It's turningpointacademy.com. It's right there on the front page, Prep Year, preparing for life, leadership, and impact. We put this together. Dr. Gooch deserves the credit. Hutz deserves the credit for transformative opportunity, ages 18, 19, 20, right? 18, 19, 20. You guys can go live 9 months in Fort Worth, Texas. Maybe if you live nearby, it's not that big of a lift. And you will learn things. That will change your whole life. It's what college should be, and then you guys can go get whatever degree and do there. But that sets you on the course, and it's kind of a dream, because I talk about college scam and all this. This is what we need. This is the foundation. So turningpointacademy.com. Dr. Gooch, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie.
Check it out, turningpointacademy.com.
And again, go to turningpointacademy.com. That is turningpointacademy.com to learn more about Prep Year. Dr. Ty Gooch did an amazing job. That is turningpointacademy.com. Okay, everybody, this is my conversation at Cambridge University. I thought it did pretty well, to be perfectly honest. It was a incredibly difficult environment. I walk in, no applause, just stares and glares from the Cambridge intelligentsia. 400 people against me and a professor. I talked to the president of Cambridge, who didn't even do the niceties, just went straight into trying to brutalize me publicly. I kept my calm. I kept my cool. I felt pretty good about the points I made. There's some points I probably could have made better.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. Our speaker tonight is Charlie Kirk, a prominent conservative commentator. He's founder and CEO of Turning Point USA, which has a presence on over 3,000 high school and college campuses. It is the largest and fastest growing youth activist organization in USA, and he's written 4 books. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Brilliant. So I'll start with some questions from me, and then we're going to move to the questions from the audience, from the people who've submitted them, and we'll be asking them at the dispatch box. My first question is about Turning Point USA's Professor Watch List. Its mission is described as exposing college professors who discriminate against conservative students and advance leftist propaganda in the classroom, with examples including feminism, abortion, and socialism. How would you respond to critics, such as PEN America, who see it as supporting what it claims to deride, which is the intimidation and ostracization of those who express controversial views on campus?
Well, we're getting right into it, aren't we? Thank you. So just by background, Turning Point USA has now grown to be the largest campus conservative organization in the country. I come from a view that conservatism is widely underrepresented in American campuses. And by conservatism, I literally mean the defense of Western values, free markets, rule of law, individual initiative, entrepreneurship, the Constitution, so on and so forth. And in American college campuses in particular, and I don't know, I'm guessing that this campus is, I don't even want to guess. We'll see what happens when we have dialogue.
Before we head into break, I want to tell you guys about Relief Factor. Are you in pain right now? Well, one of the ways you guys can get out of pain is it's going to relieffactor.com. You see, Relief Factor, they've been long supporters of our show. It's a 100% drug-free supplement, daily supplement, that helps your body fight pain naturally. It's been developed by doctors. Relief Factor uses a unique formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, helps reduce or even eliminate it. In a few weeks or even days, you'll start to feel a remarkable difference. Whatever you like to do, swimming, backpacking, hiking, running, Relief Factor can help you do more of the things you love all summer long. Give Relief Factor a try with their 3-week quick start. It's only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Visit relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. That is relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com.
American made. And darn proud of it. The Charlie Kirk Show.
But I do know that there's some great professors that do teach the Western canon, which is far too missing from American universities, is that American college campuses have become a place where they strive to have everyone look different but think the same. And in America, university and college tuition is through the roof, and students and parents have a moral obligation to know who is teaching their kids. And for these professors that have such a major objection for being on our professor watch list, if they don't say obscene things, then they will not end up on our watch list. I'm talking about professors that were excited about what happened on October 7th. I'm sorry, if you're excited about what happened on October 7th, then you deserve to be on a professor watch list, and people should know all about you. And if people want to fire you as a consequence of that, or if people don't want to go to that school as a consequence of that, then so be it. And so what was the criticism exactly?
It was that the watch list supports what it claims to deride, which is the intimidation and ostracization.
Oh, yeah, I mean, sorry, thank you. If the publicizing of certain ideas is intimidation, then I think that's just laughable. It is using our own free speech to expose professors who we believe are making America a worse country. And in fact, I believe in America, higher education has largely posed a threat to Western values.
To tell you more about the Herzog Foundation, are you rethinking your kid's educational path and wondering if their current school truly supports your values? Well, you're not alone, and the Herzog Foundation is here to help. With the Trump administration working to abolish the federal Department of Education and return control to the states, there's never been a better time to explore Christian education. For far too long, federal overreach has dictated how children learn, but now parents have a greater say in their kids' futures. This shift could make Christian education more attainable than ever. The Herzog Foundation is your trusted guide to navigating these critical changes. Whether families are considering a Christian school, a hybrid model, or homeschooling, they provide the resources families need to make informed decisions. And to stay updated on the latest developments from the Trump administration and how they impact education, turn to The Lion, the Herzog Foundation's award-winning publication. The Lion offers real-time news and insights to keep you informed and empowered. Visit readlion.com to access must-read articles, and don't forget to sign up for The Lion's daily and weekly newsletters. That is readlion.com. Stay informed, stay equipped, and help shape your child's future. Portions of the Charlie Kirk Show are brought to you in part by the Herzog Foundation and The Lion. So check it out at readlion.com.
And I think we need more students and more parents to realize the moral rot that universities have become in the Western world.
So Turning Point Academy mentions the importance of promoting intellectual growth. How would you respond to critics that such an education system stifles intellectual growth through establishing a fixed set of values, for example, regarding God, life beginning at conception, and two genders, rather than promoting intellectual diversity?
Sure. I mean, at some point, you're going to have to get to a truth claim. So even to say that you want intellectual diversity means that you think intellectual diversity matters, but by what standard? So you have to actually at some point say that something is good. So if someone says, well, the criticism that you're going to tell a kid that something is good, something else, you should have intellectual diversity. Okay, why? By what standard? By what book? By what scholar? By what author? By what worldview? We believe, as a organization, that the West is the best for many reasons. In particular, my own personal views. I'm a Christian. I'm not ashamed of it. And Christianity brought to the world things that we all take for granted. Tom Holland, who actually was educated here and is one of the great classicists and taught himself ancient Greek, he wrote in his book Dominion that even if you hate Christianity, your critique of Christianity is actually using Christianity itself. And so this idea of intellectual diversity, I totally support that. And I think that students should read different books and should read different authors. At some point, though, the purpose of education is not to have an endless buffet line for students to sample every bad idea in the world. It's to point them to the good, the true, and the beautiful. And I think we've lost what the purpose of education is. Education in Latin literally means to lead forth. To lead forth out of the cave was the original analogy. And so at Turning Point Academy, we take the biblical idea to train a child up in the ways in which they will go, and we make no apologies for instituting a belief that believing in God is better than secularism. The defense of universal human equality is a good for all humanity, amongst many other things that you articulated.
So how would you reconcile the importance of freedom, which is listed as Turning Point USA's mission on your website, with the restrictions on bodily autonomy, which you support, including abortion, trans-affirming healthcare, and birth control? And how would you respond to criticism of your limited view of freedom?
Sure. So first of all, birth control, I don't have that strong of views of. So I mean, except for the fact that I've criticized how actually young women that take hormonal birth control might have side effects that are not always disclosed to them. As far as abortion and trans-affirming care, I'll get into that in a second, but I find it laughable, not from you, of course, but some of the people that are always very critical of, Charlie, why don't you just believe in bodily autonomy? I'm sorry, didn't you just mandate a vaccine for the last couple of years? I couldn't visit your country for 2 years because I didn't take a vaccine. So it's my body, my choice, unless it's So it's my body, my choice if it's another human being in the womb, but it's not my body, my choice if I want to take a vaccine. That was neither safe nor effective. And we all must be very honest about the fact that the public health experts of both of our countries never apologized for the fact that they made you take a vaccine that, by the way, has a lot of side effects for a lot of people in this room, and no one wants to say that. As a side note, though, all the bodily autonomy people, you guys can laugh all you want, it's fine. All the bodily autonomy people suddenly got really silent when we decided to say we're going to control your body and control the movement of what you can do. You can't go to the pub. You can't go to the local gathering of friends. You can't go to university. You can't even go into the UK if you don't have a card. So that's a fun contradiction for me. At the same time, there's a difference between freedom or liberty and license. Liberty is the pursuit of things that allow human beings to flourish at its highest possible potential. License is not those things. So in the first thing, you do not have a ability, and I'm sure there will be a question about this, under any agreed upon Western morality, which is derived from a Christian construct, to murder another human being. You do not have that freedom. And so we believe, obviously, because we believe in very basic biology and science, that life begins at conception, and therefore that life deserves universal human rights as applied equally under our laws.
Okay, we'll be back tomorrow with more. This is your reminder to join members.charliekirk.com to watch this full interview. I got a dash to the White House. God bless you guys. Talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Tried to shut them up.
There's no guarantee to free speech.
They tried to cancel them.
Deplatforming works.
They even threw them in jail.
Peter Navarro,
Steve Bannon,
now in prison.
But they couldn't stop them.
There's not a prison bill that will ever shut me up.
They call them rebels.
Basket of deplorables.
They call them rogues.
They claim to guns or religion.
And they say they're outlaws.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
War Room presents Rebels, Rogues, and Outlaws.
You